Active news day in the NFL. A lot of questions emerge involving the Texans at the wide receiver position, and a lot of possibilities emerge as well. Landry, Lockett, Cody Stoots with you. It is SNL. Cody, we'll go through each of the three names that are out there. But let's start with Joe Mixon and what Joe Mixon had to say, because he is
he loves a tweet that doesn't have any explanation to it.
Oh my God, imagine Nico and never mind, just wait on it. Eyeballs.
Joe Mixon loves Twitter. He loves to tweet these things. He never explains himself. And I actually really enjoy it a lot of times too from Joe Mixon. I don't know that he knows anything. He was doing it like days after the offseason, like days after the season had ended when like nothing could happen. Like obviously stuff can happen now, so it matters a little bit more. But Joe Mixon loves a subtweet or whatever you want to call this, a tease tweet, if you will. And I don't know that any of them have paid off yet. Have any of the Joe Mixon like teaser tweets paid off?
I haven't really seen any. I mean, they've been so vague that there's no way to really judge him. One of them was he knows Nick's got something cooking, and then we know we're going to figure something out. But there hasn't been like a specific thing. Like in this instance, he's basically talking. He's clearly talking wide receiver.
Yeah.
The one thing is he's not just saying imagine. He's just saying just wait on it. So is he insinuating? And I think this is naturally what fans start to think. Like, is he insinuating that something's happening? Is he talking about Davante Adams? Could he be talking about DK Metcalf? Is he talking about Christian Kirk? Like, who knows? But I mean, it's
Joe Mixon's putting vague tweets up about Christian Kirk, we need to take Twitter away from Joe Mixon. This is about DK Metcalf or Davante Adams. And I got to assume, based on the timing of today, this is about DK Metcalf. So, but how would Joe Mixon know if anything's in the works? I don't know that he would, unless he was like buddies with DK Metcalf and we didn't know it.
I mean, he's in the circle. He knows some things. He probably knows where guys want to go. He knows people enough people. So who knows? But yeah, he's definitely got people a little bit more, a little bit excited. I don't know if it's, I like if there is nothing, it's kind of a dick move.
Well, he always has the plausible deniability of, the other team just came in with a better offer or whatever. Like he can always, but he's done this before and he never explains himself. Like Nick's got something cooking. Well, that was 3 days after the season's ended and nothing could happen. They couldn't even, like, there was no roster movement allowed. So like what, like Joe Mixon loves Twitter, and I love that Joe Mixon loves Twitter.
So let's talk about this wide receiver position. I think it's their biggest need by far. I think it's a bigger need than offensive line. I think wide receiver is their biggest need. When you look at what's going on with the position, and we did get some news on Tank Dell. This should kind of put to rest the silly pipe dreams that have been going out, if anyone still has them. But we'll get to that in a second. But the wide receiver position, big need. We anticipate that there's going to be multiple avenues they go to improve it. And there's been a couple names that have been thrown out there right off the top. Let's start at the bottom with Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett has been released. And this was minutes after DK Metcalf. This was minutes before the DK Metcalf Kinsika trade news came out. So I do wonder if Davante Adams is going to be a Seattle Seahawk. I kind of wonder if these are connected moves where Davante goes to Seattle to pair with JSN, kind of the West Coast vibe, and then they get rid of DK and they get rid of Lockett. It would make sense for those things to be connected. But how would Tyler Lockett fit with the Texans? Let's just talk about from strictly a fit standpoint. He's been in the league 10 years. We know he's old. But how would Tyler Lockett fit?
And Tyler Lockett would, be a veteran that you could trust out there on the outside. And he's got a little bit of inside versatility to him, but primarily he'd be a veteran that's in the rotation on the outside. I don't know that you're sitting here and you're like, well, Tyler Lockett's your number 2. That's not what anybody would really like to see from the offseason. But if he was on some weeks based on the game plan, based on how everything's set up, he was the 4th best receiver. Some weeks he's the 3rd best receiver. Like, you could do a whole lot worse. Like Tyler Lockett, at this point in his career, at this age, he gives you more than Robert Woods gives you from a receiving standpoint. That's
how I looked at it. I dropped a video when this news dropped. It was minutes before the DK. I'll get into the DK on the night stream, but my thing was, is Tyler Lockett better than John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson? Yes. Like, yeah, he's better than both of them. So with what they have at wide receiver right now, he's better than all but one guy. I look at him as like an upgrade over Robert Woods. Like he's a better Robert Woods. He's a 4 or 5. Maybe on certain nights he can be a 3 or
turn back the clock that day.
Yeah, but I think he's a veteran option. He's a better option than what Robert Woods was. A much better option, if we're being honest, of what Robert Woods was. There's the natural thought that he goes to the Raiders because of Pete Carroll. I just think it's weird. Like I just find that whole like natural assumption weird. I'm not saying it's not going to play out. It seems weird. Chip Kelly got $7 million to be the offensive coordinator of the Raiders. Pete Carroll's not telling Chip Kelly who to play on offense. And I don't think Pete Carroll wants to tell Chip Kelly who to play on offense. I think he wants to let him run his offense. So that's really where that is. Would it make sense? Maybe, but I don't think it's like some sort of foregone conclusion. But I would be fine with Tyler Lockett. I like Tyler Lockett. I go all the way back a generation ahead of Tyler Lockett in appreciating the Lockett's ability to play football. So a better version of Robert Woods, I would take it.
Well, and you think about a guy that's played as much football as Lockett. When you've got other young guys in the room, that's a guy you could pick the brain. That's a guy you can learn from. He could teach a lot to young guys, and they could pick up, hey, this is how a guy who was a 3rd round pick has stuck around for 10 years in the NFL from the way he works and operates. And I like a lot that what Tyler Lockett brings to the table. There's obviously players way better than him that you could bring in. But if you ended up with Tyler Lockett replacing Robert Woods in sort of the pecking order, that's a receiving upgrade.
And wide receiver still remains a very significant need if you get Tyler Lockett. So it doesn't solve all your problems.
Right.
Coming up a little later on in the show, man, I think we've gotten to the bottom of why Cody might have been on edge the last few days. And I should have been more sensitive to it. We discovered it on the night stream last night. We got to check the tape, Cody. We got to check the tape a little bit later on in the show, but
can't wait.
You did do something.
Bart Scott, can't wait.
You did do something though that I thought was a little disrespectful earlier in the show. You kind of rolled your eyes at Christian Kirk as if he wasn't worthy of Joe Mixon hype.
That's not what I did. I mean, that's exactly what I did. And he's not worthy of Joe Mixon hype.
So it is what you did then.
Yeah. I rolled my eyes at him being worth a tweet.
Okay. Christian Kirk, is he one of the best free agent options at wide receiver though?
I like Christian Kirk's fit more than I like Tyler Lockett's fit. He's younger.
I don't think one would prevent you from getting the other.
Well, you're getting real I mean, look, the overall wide receiver room is better, but you can only add so many guys. Like, I mean, if you brought in Lockett, I guess he's sort of your 4. You go with the rookie as your 3, or as your 2/3, and then Kirk's your 2/3, depending on how you use them. Like Christian Kirk's a slot receiver, Tyler Lockett's an outside guy. So I like the chances of finding an outside guy that you could trust from day one at wide receiver a lot more than I like the chances of finding a slot guy that you could trust day one in the draft. So that's why I lean Kirk more than Lockett. And yeah, one doesn't prevent you from the other because they play different positions. But I like Kirk a lot more than I like Tyler Lockett.
Well, I think I like Kirk more than I like Stefon Diggs. I think I like Kirk more than I like a lot of these veteran options. I mean, obviously not Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a notch above, but I like the possibility of Christian Kirk more than I do Stefon Diggs. He's 28 years old. He's coming off a collarbone injury. It's not like a lower body injury or anything like that. He's kind of a tell sign of, wide receivers in free agency where they don't typically last very, very long.
No.
But there's a number of reasons why Jacksonville's getting rid of him. One of them, I think, is they found one of the next big stars in the NFL at wide receiver last year in the 20s in Brian Thomas. They also have opportunity to get younger at the position. They're paying Trevor Lawrence now. It's not the rookie deal kind of recklessness that comes with it. So I think Christian Kirk would be solid. I think Christian Kirk would be one of the most intriguing wide receiver options of all of them. And he's also pretty young, and he's kind of in between the seeking out his first big payday and completely washed area that you often have to balance when it comes to free agency, like where there's an overpay and then there's washed up, doesn't have anything behind him. He's kind of in that middle range, which is what I kind of like with the Texans. And I think he could complement Nico Collins nicely. I think they need a viable slot option. Like they need someone who can do work in the slot. I think it's 100% necessary. And I don't think it's Christian Kirk or Tyler Lockett. I think it's almost like Christian Kirk or the cost of DK Metcalf and the cost of Stefon Diggs. I think he's a little more up in a tier. You're putting him down in the Lockett tier. I think he's above that.
Oh, I didn't put him in the Lockett tier. I said like I'm better than Lockett.
Yeah, but I don't even think that they're discussing those two. I don't even think they're on like in the same category. I don't think one affects the other.
Yeah, I think Kirk's going to cost more than some of these other guys, but he's not going to cost as much as some of the premium guys that are out there. He's my second favorite slot option for the Texans, and I don't really believe from a free agent standpoint, and I don't really believe the first one's actually available. Like if they could get Keenan Allen, I'm in on Keenan Allen as the slot guy, but Keenan Allen has said very publicly he wants to play in LA or he wants to play for the Bears. So I don't really consider him to be an option. So as far as slot options go, I like Christian Kirk. I'd even, if there was some sort of, you needed to financially incentivize him more than another team, like I'd even be willing to pay a little bit more than another team just to get that guy, solidify that slot spot for you. You could add another body behind him for down the depth chart to sort of learn behind him as well to kind of create the succession plan when you're done with Christian Kirk. And we're 2 years removed from a 1,000-yard season with 8 touchdowns. Like there's still something left in this guy. Like this isn't some 36-year-old, you're trying to kick the tires, tons of injuries, don't know what kind of athlete he's going to be. Like 2 years removed from a really good season on an okay football team. Like it's not like that was like an awesome Jaguars team where he just showed like he was one of the better players that year for that Jaguars team. So I like Kirk, and I don't know exactly what the financial investment's going to be, but you could certainly fit it in and still go do some other big things with free agency trades, things like that.
Yeah, I think the fall off for him, like if you do what you naturally do whenever a player is being discussed, the fall off for him is pretty easy to explain. Like with Diggs, you had to go back and you had to say, oh, well, they got a new OC and age and all that. And with Lockett, it's age and they brought in other receivers. With him, it's Brian Thomas, collarbone, and look at Trevor Lawrence. Like it's proportional to Trevor Lawrence having that good year a couple years ago when they won the division and then kind of drifting away. So I think it's easy to explain the fall off, and Father Time is not snuck into the equation just yet. It's also good that it's easy for me to say it's good that it's a collarbone injury instead of like some sort of lower body injury that we're talking about.
Yeah, no doubt. You're much more comfortable with a guy coming back from a upper body injury than having some sort of big knee issue that you got to worry about and you can't figure out. And plus, if you got a knee issue, you can't go through some of the offseason stuff. If you have an upper body issue, you can still go out there and run around and figure out exactly where you need to be in the new system, things like that. You just can't have contact. Well, they don't do contact in offseason stuff. So while Stefon Diggs would maybe be sitting on the sideline watching everything, at least Kirk can go out there in a red jersey, no contact, and run around and run the routes that he needs to run and things like that.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. Kyle Nance, 199 on the soup. Appreciate you, mi amigo. Now,
I think Kyle's really wanted to kind of hammer home something we had talked about just yet, that Nico Collins did the contract restructure. And I say Nico Collins, the team restructured Nico's deal to create a little cap space.
10 mil, 9.5, 10 mil is what I've seen. Here's my question, and I don't pretend to be a salary cap expert. What does a simple restructure mean? I saw that was the wording that and multiple NFL guys used it. It was like a simple restructure. What does that mean? I'm not like that interested to no, it was easy.
It's a clause within the contract that you just activate.
Okay.
There's no changing of the actual language in the contract or adjustments of money. It's something that typically teams build into the contract that allows them to just basically flip a switch and turn this portion of the contract into a different portion of the contract. That's a very bare bones, basic way to explain it, but I feel like that kind of basically demonstrates what it is.
I forgot to congratulate you too. And that's on me. I forgot. I feel like a bad friend, bad co-host, but $2 million, Daria Gumbawale, he's going to be back next year. So you don't have to throw away that customized Daria jersey that you paid $225 for, that authentic, nice, alternate Daria Gumbawale jersey that you got. You don't have to throw it away. It's still going. It's not a throwback yet. So congratulations on that, Stoots.
Am I supposed to react to that? Is anybody supposed to believe that's a real thing? I told you he was going to be back.
We were talking about the 5 favorite sons of the Texans yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it 3 weeks ago on this show. We're like, I think Daria's going to be back.
So is he like RB3? Are they going to try to make him RB4 / special teams? Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, here's I don't want to. I want to show the guy the appropriate respect because he's a great example that you don't have to be some star to stick around in the NFL and continue to make money. But it'd be real nice if somebody replaced Daria Gumbawale by the end of training camp. Like somebody played well enough and they trusted that player enough, and that player had more than what Daria Gumbawale presents as a player. Like if you could replace him with a different player by the end of training camp, that'd be pretty good.
Here's the problem I have with Agumbawale right now that I have. And I always preface talking about him by saying, if every athlete got everything out of what they were blessed with, like Daria Agumbawale, there would be no underachieving. There would be no underachievers. So I say that with the utmost respect. But if you're going to bring back Daria Agumbawale and you're going to bring back Dameon Pierce, that's 2 guys who you can make a case that their biggest impacts are special teams, and their impacts on offense are very, 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 very like the ceiling for them are very minimized. Mm-hmm. I just don't think you can do that, man. Like you got to, if they are going to do that, I'm not even going to entertain the possibility of like some Dameon Pierce resurgence or Dameon Pierce RB2. That ship has sailed. But if you are going to keep both of those guys, that's kind of troubling because it only leaves like 2 guys, 2 possibilities at running back with potential high upside. And that's the problem I have.
Well, final year of his rookie contract, Dameon Pierce, and 1 year, $2 million Daria Gumbawale, like they're on the roster today. They're on the 90-man when training camp starts. That doesn't guarantee them anything when it comes to the 53. Like
no, I know that.
They need bodies on this team to push those guys off.
But they neglected the backup running back position last year for the most part. Like kicking the tires on Cam Akers in the middle of camp, it looked okay, and then they got rid of it. So I hope this doesn't cause them to think that they're just like going to go into camp set. I hope there's like an active effort to improve the talent of that position.
Well, if we're sitting here a week from today and they haven't kicked the tires on any other free agent running back, and if we're sitting here 2 months from today and they didn't draft a running back, then we'll be throwing our hands up and bitching and moaning about how they didn't address the backup running back situation yet again. But they haven't had a chance to add anybody to the equation yet. You know, bringing Daria back doesn't mean Daria's on the 53. It just means he's going to be on the 90.
Other Texans news before we get to the big fish, the big news that people are playing. A lot of people playing Madden in the chat right now. I don't know how Jalen Waddle's even getting brought up. I don't know where that's coming from, but
can't imagine they're trying to trade him.
Yeah, that's just random Madden stuff. But Tank Dell had another surgery today. So I think we said that the moment after the Chiefs injury that I don't think he's going to play in 2025, just based on what we saw and what we witnessed. It seemed like that was kind of accepted. There have been Tank Dell questions. I think if you read between the lines of what D'Amico's saying, he's basically telling you that there's not really much. It's not worth speculating about Tank Dell coming back because he talks about his spirit and his mindset, which insinuates that he has a hell of a lot going on, a hell of a lot on his plate. And that's not even at the forefront of anything. So if anyone was holding on to like some sort of pipe dream that Tank Dell might play football in 2025, first of all, I don't know why you were doing that. But second of all, I think we can kind of move on from that.
Well, and that's been my conversation point the whole time this offseason. You can't plan for 2025 with Tank Dell in their plans. That would be a foolish way to approach things.
And I don't think you can plan 2026 with him in your plans. I mean, if Tank Dell somehow is trotting on the field at training camp in 2 years and he's competing for a number 4 or even a roster spot or something like that, that's awesome. That's great. That's not sleeping on him. That's being realistic to him.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think you're functioning at the wide receiver position as if Tank Dell doesn't exist right now. He's a part of the team. He's there, but when it comes to building a roster and it comes to building a wide receiver room, Tank Dell has nothing to do with your plans right now, and he should not. And that's not that's more respectful than disrespectful. It doesn't mean you're punting on him. That doesn't mean he's not going to be around. I sense that Tank Dell, he's not going to be Stefon Diggs. I think we see Tank Dell a lot. Like I would think that like during the rehab process, we'll see Tank Dell like when he's walking, we'll see him walking around. When he's working out, we'll see him. He's going to be a part of the team. But as far as building your roster, he should have nothing to do with your plans.
Yeah, can't be counted on right now. You cannot count on him right now.
Yeah, it would be unfair towards him. So that brings us to the big news today. DK Metcalf. Flat out question. Is DK Metcalf worth the cost? And we got to establish what the cost will be too.
I went into this conversation as soon as I saw that he was available. I went in thinking it was going to be the second round pick is probably where you start the conversation, what the Texans have in the second round. And that plus getting him a new deal, because if you understand the situation, the Seahawks allowed him to go find the deal. And then it's up to them to kind of parse through if they like it, they like the team. So like he's going to go find his money. And then the Seahawks have to find with that team the common ground on exactly what they're going to get for DK Metcalf. I thought just based on the amount of teams that should be interested in DK Metcalf, as well as how good he is, the second round pick is kind of the starting point for the conversation. Filling everything else out after that, do you get other picks involved? Do you get something back like in a later round to help offset? But that second round pick is probably where I'd start the conversation. And that's pretty pricey on top of paying him a new deal. And I feel like he's worth it because it gives you a super unique wide receiver tandem that nobody else has anything close to. Like some teams have one super freaky guy and then a different version of a guy. Like to have two physical monsters on the outside, it's a really intriguing wide receiver duo to work with.
Man, I just wish this would have happened last year. I mean, because like as far as the Diggs deal, I mean, it's just sometimes timing just doesn't line up. But I mean, if this were the case last year where you're talking about a second round-ish pick. Now, they didn't know that JSN was going to be one of the best young receivers in the league. They had context clues, but he kind of established himself as that this year. And I think there's a Devontae Adams factor too.
Is the reservation from people about the draft pick compensation or the financial compensation to Metcalf?
Yes.
I think it's about both.
Yeah. I mean, look, like last year you gave up a high draft pick for Stefon Diggs. Like you flipped, whatever, trade back, whatever. Like the trade back for 19 spots is typically around a second rounder. So you gave up a premium draft pick for Stefon Diggs. You don't have much to show for it. If you do it again for the second straight year and one of those guys is gone, yeah, DK Metcalf might end up working nicely, but it doesn't quite resemble like using your assets and maximizing them the most. And then you factor in, yeah, he's going to be what, your second highest paid non-quarterback once CJ gets paid?
No, because when CJ gets paid, Will gets paid, and Will make more money than
Yeah,
DK.
okay, but okay, yeah, you're right. So he'll make more money than Nico. He'll make more money than Nico, and that's kind of what I'm getting to. He's going to make more money than Nico. I don't think he's as good as Nico right now.
He's not,
and you're going to have to factor that in as well. And you're going to have to pay Stingley. You still have to pay Will. You still have to pay CJ, and they figured that out. But that's just the real thing with me. For me, in the fantasy world that I like to live in, and I like to look back, look forward, look in the moment. Damn, I wish this was the case last year. I wish this news would have dropped this time last year. Man, it would have been a no-brainer then. And that was before the Nico extension. But now I guess you can convince me that it makes sense. It's just a damn shame that this is happening now and not last year.
I do wonder if we are overrating the draft pick compensation, because there is a financial commitment to Metcalf that also has to be made by the team that trades for him.
Yeah, maybe it's a third or fourth.
So my willingness to pay DK Metcalf a little bit more, or just flat out more than Nico Collins, like that goes up if the compensation from a draft pick standpoint goes down. Like if I'm trading the second round pick that the Texans have for DK Metcalf, like, I don't really want to pay him a whole bunch more than Nico Collins. I understand DK Metcalf has a longer track record, but the past 2 seasons, Nico Collins, playing less football, has been a more productive player than DK Metcalf. So would that be weird in the locker room to have a guy come in, he immediately makes more?
I don't think Nico cares.
Maybe Nico doesn't care, but do other guys in the locker room care? Like, is it like, hey, that guy makes more money than are they just, hey, we got a baller on our team. Who cares how much money he makes? He's going to make us better. Because if the compensation to get Metcalf is a third, it's a fourth, it's a fourth this year, a third next year, like my willingness to pay him goes way up.
Yeah, the thing about the DK Metcalf thing is, what is the cost? I mean, if we're talking a day 3 pick, then it kind of changes it. But they've got to figure some stuff out. And Jerome asks this. How come the Eagles can pay everybody, but we're penny pinching? Who cares about the cap 3 years from now? We're trying to win now. Well, I mean, 3 years from now, I don't know that the Eagles are paying what CJ Stroud's going to. I mean, Jalen's up there. Will Anderson and Derek Stingley. The Eagles aren't just like they're not just throwing it around. They're being pretty smart. They've made some relatively tough decisions.
Well, and they've just decided that like one day they're going to be in a salary cap crunch, but they're not going to let that day be anytime soon. If they just continue to pay and they kick it down the road. And Caserio talked about it at the combine. Like they operate in a very different way than he does. They operate on a much longer timeline than the Texans do. The Texans operate in a little bit shorter timeline. Now, after the Texans pay CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, you have a better understanding long-term of what those guys as well as Stingley are making. Maybe the Texans change their approach a little bit, but operating in these smaller windows initially until the quarterback and the pass rusher gets paid, that feels like that makes a little bit more sense for the Texans.
Yeah, I don't know what they operate in. And the Eagles have they have a better track record of being able to build rosters. Like they can overhaul rosters. So when you
they hit on their guys.
Yeah. They hit on their draft picks. They hit on everything. So
they pay guys before they have to pay them.
Yeah, I think mentioning the Eagles is idiotic at this point. Like you want to find players like them, but and I don't mean to call Jerome an idiot, although sometimes
if you operated
go at it. But I just think that I don't think you can live in the Eagles world yet.
If every team operated like the Eagles, you'd have more teams end up like the Saints than the Eagles. In that the Saints are in salary cap hell every year. It costs them money to get rid of guys. They don't know what they're doing with the financial commitment. Like if every team did what the Eagles did, you'd have a bunch of Saints running around in the league and not a bunch of Eagles running around in the league.
Yeah, they got to figure out their draft, But the DK thing, I'm not completely opposed. I do wonder what the draft comp could be. I don't know how much leverage Seattle has at this point. I also wonder how much they want Devontae Adams. Like that might kind of impact the time frame as well, because it just seems interesting that they're getting rid of all these receivers. Devontae wants to go to the West Coast. So are you just going to make JSN and then need a receiver? Like it kind of seems like if you're willing to get rid of these receivers, maybe they have like a plan, and maybe that plan is Devontae Adams. So who knows? But DK worth the cost. What is the cost? Regardless of what it actually ends up being, there's multiple layers. It's going to be a hefty contract.
Yeah,
draft equity.
I wonder about that contract too. Like, are we talking about, Nico's average annual values $24.5 million? Are we talking about $27 million a year on average annual value? How long is that contract? The biggest number in the league's 35. He's obviously not getting that. He doesn't deserve 30 a year, but can he get to 27.5 a year? Like the average annual value is going to be big.
Yeah, that's massive. Dom from Jersey, shout out to Dom. He asks if CJ struggles again, he's a glorified Trevor Lawrence. We will have buyer's remorse. He lost. He's going third person. Dom from Jersey last year.
Yeah, I like how Dom's just selling on the guy before the season even happens.
He said, Will. I don't think there's any buyer's remorse. Like, I don't think there was buyer's remorse with Zach Wilson. I think it's worth drafting. I think CJ's good enough to where he's going to warrant the deal. He's not going to fall off a cliff. I do think he regressed last year. I would agree with that. I think there were factors that contributed to it, but yeah, I don't think it's time to panic too much with CJ. They just gotta put some stuff around him, and he's got to bounce back. He's got to figure it out.
The biggest thing for CJ Stroud or one of the biggest things as you watch him is at the conclusion of the next season, you have to feel comfortable handing him a giant contract. There's no way the Jaguars felt comfortable handing Trevor Lawrence that contract. At the end of the 2025 season, when the Texans pay CJ Stroud, you need to feel comfortable handing him that money. The Jaguars didn't feel comfortable handing Trevor Lawrence that money. I don't know why they did. They could have waited another year. But, yeah, there's a very clear goal for 2025 for CJ Stroud from a perception standpoint. Like, you've got to perform. You got to be way better than you were last year. You probably need to take the jump everybody thought you were going to jump from year one to year two. Obviously, like, you're in the wrong show if you think we're just going to carry his jock. Like, if CJ Stroud's not any good, we'll tell you. You'll hear it right here on SNL. If he's not worth the money, they pay him some gaudy contract. He's not worth the cash. We'll tell you every time.
No, I mean, there's the Trevor Lawrence. I always use the Trevor Lawrence, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, where they're good enough. And then there's the other thing. I do wonder, like, why is there no middle, like, with all the nuance that goes on in football? And I know that NBA kind of like tries to pride itself on the nerdy ass stuff, but it's sometimes it's just like keeping it real goes wrong, and they're just talking in circles. But with all the nuance in football, and I think there's more nuance than anything, like when it comes to player evaluation, when it comes to cap management, when it comes to drafting, when it comes to the chess versus checkers, like drafting. I just feel like there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. When to pay guys, when to attack with the quarterback on a rookie deal, all that. Why is there no like true middle class at quarterback? Like you have, it's just almost accepted that if a guy's not an elite quarterback, you're going to pay him like an elite quarterback. Like Sam Darnold last year, they got him for what? Like $3 million, $4 million, whatever the hell it was, $10 million. It was nothing.
Yeah. I mean, my answer to this would be everybody's afraid of getting dacked.
Okay, but exactly. But the Dak is part of the problem. They were competing against no one when they paid Dak. That's the problem. And then you have Sam Darnold, who last year was pennies. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, $40 million, you got to pay Sam Darnold. Why? Like Daniel Jones has one good year and all of a sudden it's like $35-40 million. Who else was really trying to do that? That's what I'm saying. Like however CJ Stroud performs, it's inevitable that he's going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
like,
I agree with you.
Like whether he is Trevor Lawrence or he's not, like it's inevitable that based on the way that teams handle quarterbacks, and I'm interested to see how San Francisco handles this Purdy situation. I know it's different than CJ, but I'm interested to see how they handle it. But it feels like it's just inevitable. Like no matter what happens, highest paid quarterback, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. That's just the market.
Well, I mean, I think Darnold's going through the fact that there's no quarterback middle class because the Vikings have no interest in tagging him or had no interest in tagging him. And they don't seem, like they're real keen on giving him $40 million. Nobody else really seems keen on giving him a bunch of money, but he doesn't have really a track record. Most of the time when these guys here's another aspect too. The franchise tag is different for quarterbacks than it is other guys because you can't do anything if your quarterback doesn't show up. You don't have to sign the franchise tag till the middle of the summer. Your quarterback can no-show all the offseason stuff and totally screw you for an entire year and still get his money. So the franchise tag's weirder for quarterbacks than it is for other positions. It's also super freaking expensive and then gets even more like – so in theory, when you draft a quarterback in the first round, you have him for 7 seasons if you want. It's just those final 2 seasons are extremely, extremely costly, and they're right there on the cap. Quarterback contract extensions are all about manipulating the cap and opening up space to do things. Like eventually, it
goes down, and eventually Patrick Mahomes is like the 10th highest paid quarterback. I get it. Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of times because it's guaranteed, like it's guaranteed to go up. So I get that too. That's actually a really good point.
I don't understand why you have to pay the guy after 3. Like I know that Goff and Wentz started this thing a couple of years ago. You don't have to pay the guy after 3. And you can pay the guy after 4. It's not that difficult. You do not have to pay anybody after 3 seasons.
No. But that's become a thing, and I think it's a lot of hardball from agents, and I don't blame players, especially in this sport, for doing it.
Let me clarify one more. First round picks. You don't have to pay first round picks after 3. You can pay them after 4. Yeah. After 4 on a second round and on, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think there's a respect, an unsaid respect, to where the argument doesn't even need to be had. And if you're listening, you can tell which side that the point of view is being expressed. That you understand the player's point of view in football, and you understand the team's point of view in football. In basketball, it's just all on one side players, and that's why the league, that's part of the reason why the league is such a shit show. Same thing with MLB. But in football, like if I'm 3 years in, I want my extension, and if we want to play hardball, we can. So I can understand both sides of that, but from the organizational standpoint, yes, I agree.
And if I'm even somewhat worth it, go ahead and pay me. If I'm not worth it, you don't have to pay me. Or you shouldn't pay me. That's kind of would be my thought process about quarterbacks.
What about right tackles?
What about them?
What about average right tackles?
I mean, I wouldn't pay average right tackles ever.
Would you give them extensions before the final year of their contract?
No.
Okay. You are not Nick Caserio.
Obviously.
Speaking of Nick Caserio, Stoots, I know this is the moment you've been waiting for.
Not really.
Yesterday on the stream,
I got about as much excitement for this as going to the dentist.
Yesterday, well, some people like the dentist.
I don't. So my dentist is very nice. I don't like going though.
Okay, well, shots fired at the dentist. I'm sure that hurts them. I'm sure they've been servicing you for a long time, but it's okay. But I think I know why you've been on edge. I don't think it's my fault.
It's definitely your fault, but go on.
No, I don't think it's my fault. And it goes back about a week from today. And I kind of noticed a little change in your attitude. And I thought I chalked it down to Indianapolis combine stress, whatever. Maybe I was joking a little bit too much. But something happened at Nick Caserio's media availability. And I think that you're just projecting your embarrassment to me for you getting punked during Caserio's thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because we went and reviewed the tape yesterday, Cody.
No.
What are the most condescending words in the English language? We've had this discussion before. What is a list of some of the most condescending words in the English language?
Pal.
And
buddy.
You got big buddied by Aaron Wilson. You
Oh,
got
shit. I don't care about this. This show's over. We'll see you guys later.
And that's part of the things that we're going to do here in the spring, and then match that up with what we see on film and say, okay, whoever the player is, regardless of the position, he's a Houston Texan or he's
Big picture. Yeah. Go ahead, buddy.
when you look
Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Dude, he says, go ahead, Cody. Are you an idiot?
I think he said, go ahead, buddy.
He says, go ahead, Cody.
All right, let's check the tape.
What?
Agents in the draft.
is, regardless of the position, he's a Houston Texan or he's
Big picture. Go ahead, buddy.
When you look at
Buddy.
free
He
agents,
very clearly says Cody, dummy.
No, he said buddy. That is
Dude.
buddy.
Landry, get your ears checked. Turn your headphones up. He very clearly says
here
Cody.
in the spring, and then match that up with what we see on film and say, okay, whoever the player is, regardless of the position, he's a Houston Texan or he's
Big picture. Go ahead, buddy.
when you look at
I heard the beat, man.
Well, then you heard it wrong. He very clearly says Cody. You can hear the k sound. So this is congratulations on the surprise party that wasn't a surprise.
Review the tape. Was it Cody?
We just reviewed the tape, buddy.
I'm still hearing buddy. I'm hearing what I want to hear on this.
I'm not surprised by that. 95% of the conversations I have with you, you hear what you want to hear.
Jarvis heard buddy. That's one of 20.
Yeah. You got about as much support for that as
What if he had said buddy? What would you have said?
then it's like I treat those situations like four-way stops. Nobody just goes at a four-way stop.
It's in the
Everybody's
draft.
two.
whoever the player is, regardless of the position, he's a Houston Texan or he's
Big picture. Go ahead, buddy.
when you
He doesn't even say the word buddy doesn't even fit in that range. You treat that like a four-way stop. Somebody gonna let you go. I'm not doing this polite wave crap at a four-way stop. If somebody says go, I'm going.
When does buddy like appropriate? Did they have to be like older than you?
I think buddy's only appropriate if you're talking to like if you're our age or older and you're talking to like a kid, like, hey buddy. I try not to, if I respect the person, I try not to buddy them.
Is pal worse than buddy?
Yeah, it's up there. Because I don't think I've ever, I mean, this is in the 50s. I haven't called somebody I actually like my pal ever.
Damn, man, I'm heartbroken that this was not buddy. Hold
on. So did you go through a whole thing on the locker room last night talking about how I got buddied?
I said you got big buddy, and I tried to call you and have you explain yourself.
Oh yeah, I was. Oh, that's what you were calling me for.
Yeah,
No, I was sitting at the wine garden.
I was trying to get you the buddy thing, and yeah, I was really on top of this. And upon further review, the ruling on the field might stand.
Boy, thank God you're not Gene Steratore. They'd get stuff wrong all the time.
Well, they do. I must Pandaline says that pal is worse from white people.
Race car!
I don't know.
I try not to pal or buddy people in person that I don't at least know somewhat. Now, somebody at the sandwich line at the sandwich place, I might pal or buddy them if they pop off. But
At the sandwich line? What kind of sandwich lines are you going to? What do you mean if they pop off? What are you
just
fighting in
using-
the sandwich line?
I was just using an example of a public area where you got into a fight at Cleaners, buddy.
That didn't happen.
You told a fat guy to take his fat ass somewhere else at the Cleaners.
That definitely didn't happen. He tried to drag me into his discussion, and I was just trying to hang out.
You said,
I
hey,
was trying-
600-pound life castings that way.
Oh, that did not happen, sir.
Speaking of sandwiches, have you told we talked about this? Did you tell the people what you told me the other day
What about what?
about Jimmy
the
John's?
life changer. Yeah, Jimmy John's has toasted sandwiches now. That's a game changer there. That's
I
a
haven't-
life changer.
I haven't been. That might be dinner tonight. I might go get a toasted sandwich from the Jimmy.
Nah,
John's.
I think that kind of puts some. I kind of think that puts them like in the power mode of the sandwiches. I mean, because the delivery separated them for a while. It's an underrated. Like as far as like if you're just gonna have like I feel like if you're gonna have like a catered lunch, or something like that, I think I think it holds up better than any of the other sandwich spots. But yeah, it's toasted now, and they got wraps and stuff. So they're doing their thing.
Did you know that after 2 p.m. you get a free combo upgrade?
Well, I can't eat. I'm not allowed to eat the next 3 days. I'm not fat phobic. Now I got to tell the story. I'll be quick on this because some of you've already heard it. I was at my cleaners. The guy's the nicest guy in the world. He's made it through COVID. He's got a family business. He works his ass off, all that type of stuff. And like the shirts are as cheap as you can possibly get. He's a great dude. It's out there on Westheimer. And there was a fat ass there that had, or a fat guy, a overweight guy that had a few shirts and he got charged a little bit extra and they were huge. And I was just waiting my place in line, minding my own business. I didn't want to, it was an awkward argument. He was yelling at the nice guy for charging him extra. And he was saying it was discrimination and all this. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to look at my phone and mind my business. Cause I feel like he's being a little bit of a jerk to this guy. It's popping off. And he asked me, he said, are you seeing this? And I said, man, I just want to mind my business. He's like, are you seeing this? And I just said, yeah, your shirts are huge. They should cost more. That's all I said. I didn't call him a fat ass or anything like that. He brought me into the conversation. That's all I said. Your shirts should cost more. That was it.
I have lots of X's in my clothing. I'm very aware that it has more material. It costs more, and I'm willing to pay the extra premium. I get it. It's a fat tax.
Yeah, it's like the long tax. Like they don't necessarily do that on jeans, but if you have to ever venture into the big and tall section, it's more expensive. Like the jeans are typically more expensive. Jeans are usually they're a little bit more lenient, I guess. But yeah, it kind of happens.
Sometimes it really
like that.
You know what I came across? I see these. I get targeted Instagram ads. Obviously, everybody does, but it's like fat guy clothing, and this one brand claims to be like it's like they had like a kind of a funny design, and I was like, oh, let's check them out. Let's see how much the fat guy clothing is. I could use a new, funny T-shirt or something. Mind you, their whole brand is fat guy this, fat guy that. Guess their biggest size.
What?
2X.
That's crazy. You can't.
The whole brand's about being
and have a 2X.
The whole brand's about fat guys, and they got like a fat guy with his belly hanging out on the shirt and all this kind of. And 2X is their biggest shirt. And then a bunch of fat guys in the comment section were like, "How are you gonna be a fat guy brand and not have fat guy sizes?"
Gage says that's how we met at the cleaners.
That's not. That's not how we met.
No, honestly, man, like I don't want to get in someone else's argument. Like, so I'm just sitting there this night. It's just the nicest guy in the world. Little dude, like the kids are there working, wife, like they're just grinding. And this dude's like, it's almost like he was just, I don't know.
Did he have any food stains on his clothing?
No, because they cleaned them.
I meant the ones he was wearing.
Nah, he called it discrimination, though. I was like,
that's not.
I don't know about all that, sir. That's
you don't want them to go to the numbers and be like, it costs this much to clean this many inches of clothing, and then
I mean, it's literally space. Like it's space. Like it's how much time. Like it's space. Like if you go to one of those candy shops, which by the way, biggest ripoff in the world. Those weighted candy shops. Is there anything more of a travesty than that?
Oh,
that's a travesty. Like you fill up a bag of Skittles and it's like
$70.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest travesties there is. But like it's just based on weight. But it happens.
The saltwater taffy lady at the rodeo almost got me yesterday. She's like, it's one bag of saltwater taffy for $15 or 2 bags for $20. And I was like, well, that's a great deal. She's like, yeah, think about how many flavors you can get. And I was like,
it should be 10-15. Should be 10-15.
I mean, I'll tell you what, nobody walked out of there with one bag, because if it was just $5 more to double your taffy, everybody was doing it.
Where were you at? Were you in the middle, or you went back where the cars are?
I went with the shops, like all the shops.
Oh, the shops, yeah.
Yeah.
Shops go in, dude. Did you get any grub there?
Oh man. There's just one shop, and they giving out, the dip stand always does the samples, but there's a new popcorn stand that does samples.
Yeah.
They had blueberry popcorn.
Can't do that.
It was delicious.
I have a popcorn maker. It's just got to be butter. I can't really mess with all that.
I thought the same thing. I was like, look at all these gaudy flavors. And then I tried one of the blueberry popcorns, and I was like, God, I kind of like that.
R Jr. asks about Cody getting bullied. The tape says he said Cody and not Buddy. So upon further review, I lose a challenge.
Romanus came into the back end of this conversation and wanted to know if I got buddied. Come on.
Yeah, that was the whole chat yesterday. So I still think there was a buddy, but I'm just gonna, for the sake of Cody's dignity and his professional working relationship with Aaron Wilson, I'm just gonna let him.
You want me to go? You know what? I'm going to go get the Zapruder film. I'm going to go find other angles and other audios, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Okay. I thought because Aaron does say buddy.
Oh, Aaron loves it. Aaron loves to hit you with a buddy.
So let's be serious. He has hit you with a buddy. I still think it was a buddy. I think people just want to see me fail on this. But I'm going to let you, because I don't want your relationship impacted.
My relationship's not impacted because that man said my name.
I think he said buddy still, but we'll go with majority.
Pal, I think you need to get your hearing checked.
I'll go with the probably. I wear my headphones pretty loud. So DK Metcalf, you say you're open to. Tyler Lockett, back end.
Bring them both in. They know each other.
Yeah, just the Seahawks, and they got the JSN, which, by the way, Texans could have had with that 12 pick. They went up with and got Will Anderson. So
I would much rather have Will Anderson.
Yep. You would much rather have Will Anderson than
Jackson
Smith and Jigba. 33 and then a first round pick last year. I guess that's true.
Yeah. I would.
Yep. When's the last time I got buddied? Aaron Wilson says buddy a lot. Like I didn't just blindly hear the Aaron Wilson. Aaron is a buddy guy.
But he doesn't say it.
It's not a condescending. He's just it's just a word for him.
That's his intro crutch is, hey buddy.
Seth Payne used to be a big buddy guy until I did like a whole segment on why I hated him calling me buddy. We did it on radio.
I cannot even imagine the existential crisis that created for Seth.
I think he like evaluated his like whole approach to life, and I was just like, man, it's just buddy. I'm just not anything like that. Buddy, bud, sport.
I see Chief is a positive one for me. If I hit you with a Chief, it's probably because I didn't remember your name, but it's not said in a derogatory way for me.
Chief.
Hey, Chief.
Okay.
Now, boss, not good for me.
Sport,
not good.
Some people say boss when they're at work, and like if you're going to like a restaurant, and I'm actually okay with it because I feel like in the service industry that even if it's our first meeting, like it's like we're just now, I'm sitting down and it's your first like viewing with me. If you need to take out some frustration and you just hate everyone because you're having to serve everyone and deal with everyone, I don't mind you being an asshole to me. It's okay. Like I get it. Like it's like you're put like you might not like if it's like, hey boss, like hey what's up? Like it's like you've taken care of 13 people before me, 14 whatever. You've had to go back and forth. A lot of stuff is not in your control. So if someone screws something up in the kitchen, you kind of have to be the face of it. Like I don't like expect like 100% politeness from people working at restaurants.
The
I don't
tough part,
expect it.
the tough part about a server hitting you with boss is that's kind of like you kind of like you're not their boss, but like you give an order to them. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't like them setting the tone there. I'd rather them hit me with a chief than a boss.
Yeah, whatever it is, like take out your frustration however you want. Some people like expect servers to just be like 100% perfect like the whole time. It's like, dude, you're an asshole. Like it's not. They've been doing a lot of stuff. Like well, I'm gonna lower the tip. It's like, dude, like it's just whatever, dude.
It is not a 100% success job. Like accountants, they get your taxes in on time. Taxes are right. Servers, if they're hitting at 80% on most of their tables, they're probably doing a damn good job.
20% is the minimum for me. Like you there's no way you don't get that. Like you can be the worst waiter ever. Like it's just I feel your pain and what you have to deal with and all the garbage that you gotta put up with. I was actually happy. Like I thought it was cool that Subway put the tip option up there. And Uber too. Remember when Uber, you couldn't even tip your Uber driver?
Yeah, you had to have cash.
And well, they wouldn't even let them take cash at a certain point. Like they wouldn't even let them. It's like,
yeah,
okay, like you got me here safely. You made that sandwich, and not only do you make the sandwich, as soon as that happens, you had to go all the way back, and you had to go all the way through. Like there's like an assembly line. So don't carry cash. But like I was glad they put but then there's some of these other places, and it's like, what have you seen the tip thing where they grade your tip with emojis?
Oh
Yeah, and it's always like someone who just takes your order, and it's like 20%, okay, 25, really good, like big smiley emoji, and I'm just like, man, y'all are bullying fools now. On the soup. Daniel says, any players you would want to extend like Hunter in order to free up more cap? What else could they theoretically do? So extensions, I think Derek Stingley, I don't know if that's going to free up any space, depending on how they put that. He could be extended. I guess you could extend Hunter. Do you want to at this point? Like, is it really worth an extension? I could see that being like some sort of in-season thing. But you're talking about heading into the offseason. I don't know that it's really urgent to extend Danielle Hunter at this point.
Well, they could do a conversion with Hunter to free up some more space without extending him past this year. So, boy, that random Danielle Hunter wants a contract extension rumor from the combine came and went like there was nothing to it. I would say if I was Danielle Hunter, I'd want to go out there and ball out and hit free agency again. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I don't know how much more he has. He had a good year though, so I don't know what the hurry is. So we'll see. It's wide receiver right now for the Texans. I saw Breer bitching about Albert Breer.
They could also, one more thing to answer the question. They could also offer Titus and Shaq Mason adjusted contracts that lowers their numbers, basically pay cuts. They could do that if they wanted to. Now the player has to say yes to that.
Yeah, they might not have a choice. You kind of bullet you, but they should definitely big body them, aka Aaron Wilson to you buddy them when it comes to contract extension. But
see, Nick Caserio would say he would not say, "Hey buddy, we need you to take a pay cut." He would say, "Hey Titus, we need you to take a pay cut."
I forgot what I was gonna say. I think it was about the wide
receivers.
Oh yeah, Breer was bitching about how everybody wants a wide receiver, even if they have a lot. And I was like, that's true, but in Houston, they really need them.
That's true.
Like every team seems to want every wide receiver, but here they need them. And what avenue will they go? It'll be interesting to see.
Sometimes the chat is so mean.
It's a hurtful place, man.
Sometimes the chat is so mean.
The chat is just a mean place, man. Just a hurtful, mean place.
You hit a big guy on a big guy that you don't know. That's not always a safe spot. Hey, big guy on a big guy you don't know. That's a little risky.
Big Dog's all right.
Big Dog. Tiger
Big
Woods. We're like it's basically a year ago exactly. Tiger Woods hit the Big Dog on like the caddy.
Yeah, Big Dog's good, man.
Big
like,
Dog's
good. What's up? What's up, bro? Bro's good. Bro's acceptable. What's up, man? You can't go wrong with man. Ma'am. I say ma'am to every woman, like no matter what the age is. 8, like probably like in the same range. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, ma'am. Yeah. It's all good. But yeah. Anyway, appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Tomorrow, who the hell knows what will go down? It seems like
why did this day turn into a busy NFL day?
Man.
Max Crosby got an extension. These guys got cut. That guy wants to get traded. This da 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 da. What happened?
It's just a wild day in the NFL. The NFL offseason just completely it runs ish. And we're just gonna figure it out. I do think it'll be interesting to see. The Aaron Rodgers thing will be interesting. I mean, do you think Indy or Tennessee is a possibility?
I don't believe Indy is a possibility at all.
Final answer.
Do you feel differently?
I don't think I wouldn't completely dismiss it. They're being really weird. Like, do you not sense that they're being really weird with the way that they're handling it? Like,
Indianapolis is being weird.
Yeah. Here, I'll explain. So
Daniel Jones is like the rumored guy that they like.
Okay, we'll see. And that might make sense, and that might be like a Sam Darnold type of situation for for them, which would be good, which is kind of the situation they've been in. But I just think it's weird the way when you watch Chris Ballard and all them, like this is like the most weird they've been at quarterback, and for some reason they're setting it up to where they know the quarterback they want. They're just not saying it. Like, you're not going to come out and say, we like Anthony Richardson, but we're just going to, we're encouraging competition. You're encouraging competition. Like, what? Like, I don't believe that. I think Indy's being really weird.
Gardner Minshew going to be out there again. They want to run that back.
Almost a division winner in Gardner Minshew.
Aaron Rodgers, my understanding, has a offseason home in Nashville.
Yeah.
So,
but are they going to draft Ward is the question.
I don't know. I don't know what Tennessee should do.
This is a crappy year to have the number 1 pick, man.
Not great.
I think it's the worst.
This is a fun exercise.
I think Travis Hunter might be the most overrated going into the NFL, just unquestioned top 5 prospect that I've ever seen. And that's not to say that he's going to be as much of a bust, because that's a wide array. But like, just as far as it just being a no questions asked, this guy's a top 5 pick, it doesn't. I think it's kind of weird. Like, I think he's a good receiver. I think he's a first-round quality receiver. I think he's a late first-round quality corner. But if he's going to play either or, and right now they're saying it might be corner more, he's a better receiver than corner to me. I think that's it. Like, if Travis Hunter's going number 1, 2, 3, I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm looking through these drafts over the years. Every one of them either's got quarterback options or more than a few dudes. Man, sucks to suck, Tennessee.
Yeah, the other thing is that you can say the guy ended up sucking, but as far as like going in, the way that they're talking about Travis Hunter, like they're talking about him like he's Jalen Ramsey with a mix of, I don't know, Jalen Waddle or something. Like, it's a weird thing.
I would have a hard time. I'd have a hard time drafting him with a top 5 pick. I also can't tell you for sure, hey, this guy, I feel so much better about him in the top 5 than Travis Hunter.
If you told me he was playing both ways, it's different, but he's not playing both ways is what they're saying. And I think he's playing. I think he's going to get picked on at corner.
Is there something you'd prefer to see Tennessee do?
Like them to suck? For them to suck?
Yeah. draft Travis Hunter, be up there.
Either of the quarterbacks doesn't really scare me, to be honest with you.
No, neither of the quarterbacks scare me. The best thing for Tennessee probably is to try to con the Giants into trading up to 1.
Yeah, and then you get Carter or something like that. You end up with Carter.
You end up with if you ended up with Carter at 3 when you would have maybe taken him at 1, it's a great job by Tennessee. But they've got 17 different front office guys, so who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, there's nothing fearful at the top of the draft. So, and that's not to say these guys aren't going to end up being elite players or anything. It's just that nothing's like overwhelmingly fearful.
I feel like there's so much more juice to this draft, like 10 to 40 than top 10.
I would say round 1 to round 4, like even like just like the balancing act of all the guys like at positions from like round 1 to 4, like just the intrigue. Like there's intrigue from position to position. Like even the guys who aren't supposed to go early, like there's just a lot of intrigue. Like you can just name a position like quarterback Quinn Ewers. When's someone taking him? What's going to happen with Jackson Dart, Milroe? Milroe's probably going to go a little bit later. Running back, Scattaboo. What do people think of him? Where are these guys going to go in the first or second round? Wide receiver. There's no like on paper, like can't miss guy. Where are these guys going to go? Is there going to be a wide receiver run? Are we going to see guys fall? Where does Ibuka go? Tight end, deepest tight end group that I can remember in a long, long time. We don't know what the hell's going on there. Offensive line, I don't really mess around with that. And then you can go on defense too. Safety's crazy. Safety value. Like there's only one guy I like in the first round, but then after that, I think you can probably end up getting starters in like the next few rounds at safety.
Offensive line's weird this year because they want all these tackles to play guard. All these guys went out there and were tackles in college. All the NFL teams want to throw them over the guard.
And I also think it makes me like guys more because you're not really thinking about them being on the squad that you watch or that you have like a rooting interest in, where like I like Will Campbell, but if I were like at the top 5 and I had to have like a franchise tackle, I don't know if I would like Will Campbell as much.
That's a good
easy to like. Like what he says is easy to like, and I like him a lot. But if the Texans were sitting at 5 and let's say there was no Tunsil or anything like that and they needed a left tackle, would I like Will Campbell as much as I do right now? It's kind of fun to just be able to sit back and watch.
There's no doubt about that. Like, the Jaguars connected to Mason Graham from Michigan. Like, after watching him at the combine, standing next to him, didn't work out. People worried about his like mentality. Man, yeah, it looked good at Michigan, but feel pretty weird about spending the 5th overall pick on that guy and not having like a real sure feeling about him.
And that's the beauty of the draft is there's so many variables. It makes dumbasses of all of us. Mm-hmm. You're balancing the 2 best sports in America coming together on one day, college football and pro football. And there's just a lot to follow and a lot to take into account. And that's why it's fun. So we'll see how it goes. Before that, though, we got some free agency. We got some wide receivers on the market. We got alleged buddies, alleged Codys. Who knows? Regardless of what it is, I'll take the L on it. I'll say it was Cody. I'm going to ask Aaron, actually.
Yeah, go for it. I'll go find 5 different audio sources and show you every time it's Cody.
Check the tape. When it comes to this Texan stuff, no matter what the tape says, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.